Captain Lisa Moore stood on the bridge of the Earth ship UES Horizon, her eyes fixed on the main screen. After years of searching deep space for signs of alien life, they had finally found it, but not in the way anyone had expected. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the alien vessel," said Diane Kelly, the communications officer. Her fingers moved quickly across her control panel. "Put it on screen," ordered Lisa, straightening her uniform jacket. The image that appeared showed a blue-skinned alien wearing what looked like a metal helmet covered in blinking lights. Behind him, other aliens rushed around what appeared to be their ship's control room. "Humans of Earth," the alien said in surprisingly good English. "I am Grand Admiral Zex of the mighty Zarnaxian Empire. We have come to accept your surrender. Bow before our superior technology and join our glorious empire as our servants." For a moment, the bridge of the UES Horizon was completely silent. Lisa looked at her crew. They all stared at the screen with wide eyes. Then Lieutenant Jack Bennett snorted. He quickly covered his mouth, but it was too late. A laugh escaped, then another. Soon he was bent over his station, shoulders shaking. "Lieutenant," Lisa said sharply, but she was fighting a smile herself. "I'm sorry, Captain," Jack managed between laughs. "But did they just demand we surrender because they think they're more advanced than us? Have you seen their ship?" Lisa had indeed seen it. The Zarnaxian vessel was essentially a metal tube with what appeared to be nuclear engines, technology humans had moved beyond nearly a century ago. "They're using actual nuclear fission," said Chief Engineer Maria Rodriguez, shaking her head in disbelief. "And they're proud of it. It's like someone threatening you with a bow and arrow when you have a fusion pistol in your pocket." On screen, Grand Admiral Zex was becoming visibly angry. "Why do you not tremble in fear? We have mastered the atom. We can destroy your cities with our nuclear weapons." Security Chief Paul Garcia leaned toward Lisa. "Should we tell them we considered nuclear weapons outdated and barbaric 50 years ago? Or that kids learned to split atoms in high school science class?" added Diane. Lisa raised her hand, calling for quiet. This was still first contact, even if it wasn't what they had prepared for. "Admiral Zex," she said formally, "Earth welcomes the Zarnaxian Empire. We are surprised by your approach. Perhaps we could arrange a meeting to discuss relations between our peoples." The alien looked confused by this response. "You wish to discuss terms of surrender in person?" "We wish to meet and learn about each other," Lisa clarified. "No one needs to surrender." The alien whispered to someone off-screen, then nodded. "Very well. We will send a delegation to discuss your peaceful submission." When the transmission ended, the bridge erupted in laughter. "Poor things," Lisa said, smiling despite herself. "They really believe they're the advanced civilization here. Should we prepare a welcome that won't completely crush their spirits?" asked Jack. Lisa considered this. "Let's be gentle. Show them some basic technology, but nothing that might cause a cultural shock. And everybody, try not to laugh to their faces." As the crew prepared for their visitors, Lisa looked out at the stars. First contact had happened at last, but not with the advanced aliens they had imagined. Instead, humanity had to figure out how to deal with a less advanced civilization that somehow believed they were the superior species. It was going to be an interesting diplomatic challenge. Ambassador Daniel White adjusted his tie for the 5th time as he waited in Earth's orbital meeting station. After years of training for first contact, he never expected it would involve aliens who wanted to conquer Earth while being centuries behind in technology. "Try not to smile too much," whispered his assistant Karen Hughes. "Remember what the cultural team said. These Zarnaxians value respect and fear." "I'll do my best," Daniel replied, taking a deep breath. The door slid open with a soft hiss. 6 Zarnaxians entered the room, led by a tall figure in what looked like ceremonial armor. The armor was clearly designed to impress, covered in blinking lights and painted symbols. But to human eyes, it resembled a child's science fiction costume. "Greetings," Humans, I am Supreme Overlord Sagthrax of the mighty Zarnaxian Empire, announced the leader. His voice came through a translator device that made him sound like he was speaking from inside a tin can. Daniel bowed slightly. Welcome to Earth's Friendship Station, Supreme Overlord. I am Ambassador Daniel White, representing the United Earth Government. The alien leader looked around the simple meeting room with narrowed eyes. You did not prepare a more impressive chamber to receive us. Karen coughed to hide a laugh. The simple meeting room featured gravity-controlled, smart glass walls that could become screens, and furniture made of self-adjusting materials, all technology far beyond what the Zarnaxians possessed. We prefer comfort over display, Daniel explained smoothly. Exagthrax made a gesture that might have been dismissal. No matter. We are here to discuss the terms of your planet's entry into our glorious empire. We rule 3 whole star systems. Daniel noticed Karen typing something into her tablet. She turned it slightly so he could see. Should we tell them humans have settlements in 17 systems? He gave her a tiny head shake and turned back to Exagthrax. That sounds impressive. Perhaps you could tell us more about your empire while we share refreshments. The Zarnaxians seemed confused by this response. They had clearly expected fear, or at least respect for their power. You do not seem concerned about our military might, said a smaller Zarnaxian, who had been introduced as Science Minister Creel. We believe in getting to know potential friends before discussing politics, Daniel replied carefully. When the refreshments arrived, the Zarnaxians stared at the simple drinks and snacks with suspicion. One of them pulled out a device and scanned the food. It is safe to eat, the alien announced, sounding surprised. Did you expect us to poison our guests? Karen asked, unable to hide her shock. Science Minister Creel looked embarrassed. In our experience, weaker species often resort to trickery when faced with superior power. Daniel smiled kindly. I assure you, that's not how humans handle diplomacy. As the meeting continued, the Zarnaxians gradually revealed more about themselves. They described weapons that sounded primitive to human ears and spoke of their advanced nuclear power technology as if it would impress the humans. Perhaps tomorrow we could show you some of our facilities, Daniel suggested. A cultural exchange would help us understand each other better. Yes, said Xagthrax, his voice suddenly uncertain. We would like to see how primitive your technology is compared to ours. After the aliens left, Karen collapsed into her chair laughing. They really have no idea, do they? Daniel looked thoughtful. No. And I'm worried about what will happen when they find out. We need to be careful not to crush their pride completely. What do you think will happen when they see even basic human technology? Karen asked. I don't know, Daniel admitted, but I suspect our biggest diplomatic challenge won't be preventing war. It will be helping them cope with the truth without destroying their cultural identity. Outside the window, Earth glowed blue and peaceful against the blackness of space, while the Zarnaxian ship orbited nearby, its nuclear engines glowing with what its crew believed was the height of technological achievement. Chief Engineer Maria Rodriguez tried to keep a friendly smile on her face as she led the Zarnaxian visitors through the basic manufacturing facility. The aliens had insisted on seeing human technology, clearly expecting to find primitive machines that would confirm their superiority. This is one of our standard production centers, Maria explained, gesturing to the clean, quiet factory floor where robots moved with smooth precision. Nothing special, just where we make everyday items. Science Minister Creel's eyes grew wider with each step. The other 5 Zarnaxians in his group kept touching their translation devices as if they must be malfunctioning. These machines, they move without anyone controlling them? Asked Creel. Of course, Maria said. They're simple worker robots. They've been standard for about 40 years now. One of the Zarnaxians whispered something to Creel, who looked increasingly uncomfortable. Is something wrong? Maria asked. No, Creel said quickly. Please continue the tour. They reached a large glass chamber where blue light pulsed rhythmically. Inside, complex objects were taking shape layer by layer from seemingly nothing. This is a molecular assembler, Maria explained. It builds objects atom by atom. Most homes have smaller versions for making simple things like dishes or tools. Creel pressed his face against the glass. You can manipulate individual atoms. Since I was in school, Maria said with a shrug. Like I said, this is pretty standard technology. The Zarnaxian military officer in the group, Commander Vex, suddenly spoke up. If this is your standard technology, what do your weapons look like? Maria smiled politely. We don't really make weapons anymore. Earth unified decades ago, and we found more productive uses for our technology. The aliens exchanged nervous glances. Let me show you our transportation hub next, Maria suggested, leading them to a large open area. As they entered, a silver platform in the center of the room glowed briefly. A woman appeared on it, stepped off, and walked past them with a friendly nod. Did that human just appear from nothing? Gasped Creel. That's just a short-range matter transporter, Maria explained, for moving around the facility. For longer distances, we use the gravity skiffs. Commander Vex clutched what appeared to be a weapon at his side, a bulky device that Maria recognized as something similar to a 20th century projectile gun. Your species can transport matter, he asked, his voice higher than before. Only over short distances reliably, Maria admitted. For planetary travel, we use gravity manipulation technology. Would you like to see? Without waiting for an answer, she led them to a window overlooking a launch area. A sleek silver vehicle rose silently into the air, hovered for a moment, then shot upward at incredible speed, vanishing from sight in seconds. That shuttle will reach our moon base in about 3 minutes, Maria said casually. Commander Vex dropped his weapon. It clattered loudly on the floor, and he quickly bent to retrieve it. His blue face now turned an interesting shade of purple. I think, said Creel carefully, we may have misunderstood some things about human development. Maria pretended not to notice the commander's embarrassment. Technology develops at different rates on different worlds. We've been curious about how your civilization evolved. Our great empire has mastered nuclear fission and developed space travel using chemical propulsion, Creel said, but his voice no longer held the pride it had earlier. That's impressive, Maria said kindly. Every civilization has its own path. As they continued the tour, the Zarnaxians grew quieter. When they reached the medical center and saw humans casually discussing life extension therapies, Commander Vex finally asked the question they had all been thinking. Why did you not simply destroy our ship when we threatened you? Maria looked surprised. Why would we do that? You traveled across space to meet us. That makes you explorers, just like us. And explorers should be friends, not enemies. The Zarnaxians looked at each other in confusion, their entire understanding of galactic politics suddenly thrown into question. Commander Stephanie Lewis stared at the silent communication screen. The Zarnaxian delegation had abruptly ended their tour of Earth's facilities and returned to their ship 3 hours ago. Since then, there had been no contact. Still nothing? Asked Admiral Joe Wilson, entering the monitoring room of the orbital station. Nothing, sir, Stephanie replied. They went completely silent after seeing our medical center. That was the last straw, I think, said Greg Miller, the human psychologist assigned to the first contact team. He pushed his glasses up his nose and continued. When Dr. Johnson casually mentioned our average lifespan is over 150 years, I saw their commander's face change color. Do we know what's happening on their ship? The Admiral asked. Stephanie nodded toward a display showing thermal readings of the Zarnaxian vessel. Lots of movement. They appear to be having some kind of emergency meeting. Their power systems are also showing unusual patterns. They're not preparing to attack, are they? Admiral Wilson looked concerned. Greg shook his head. I don't think so. Based on their cultural patterns, I believe they're having an identity crisis. Their entire society is built around being superior to other species. Learning they're centuries behind us has probably shattered their worldview. The communication screen suddenly lit up, showing a new Zarnaxian face, thinner and with lighter blue skin than the military leaders they had met before. "This is Diplomat Vreen of the Zarnaxian Empire," said the alien. His voice lacked the booming confidence of the previous representatives. "I request to speak with your leaders." Stephanie stepped forward. "Commander Stephanie Lewis here. Admiral Wilson and I are authorized to speak for Earth. How can we help you, Diplomat Vreen?" Vreen appeared to take a deep breath. "The Supreme Overlord is indisposed. I have been asked to handle communications going forward. Is everything all right aboard your vessel?" asked Stephanie. A pause. "We are experiencing some technical difficulties, and our supplies are running low. Our ship cannot return to Zarnaxian space without refueling. We'd be happy to provide whatever assistance you need," Stephanie said warmly. Vreen's expression showed surprise. "You would help us, even after we threatened your world?" "Of course," Admiral Wilson said, joining the conversation. "That's what neighbors do for each other." The alien diplomat seemed speechless for a moment. "We do not understand. If you possessed the power to destroy us all along, why didn't you?" "That's not how we measure advancement," Stephanie explained gently. "We'd found that true progress begins when you have the power to destroy but choose to help instead." Vreen's large eyes blinked rapidly. "This is not how galactic politics usually works in our experience." "Maybe it's time for a new approach," suggested Greg with a friendly smile. After arranging for fuel and supplies to be sent to the Zarnaxian ship, Stephanie met with her team to discuss the situation. "Their ship's systems are actually dangerous," reported Chief Engineer Bill Porter. "Their nuclear reactor is poorly shielded. Their crew is being exposed to radiation levels we wouldn't permit even a century ago." "Can we help fix it?" asked Stephanie. "Easily," Bill nodded. "But I'm worried about cultural interference. Their entire power structure seems based on their leaders' claims of technological superiority." Greg considered this. "I think we're past the point of non-interference. They've seen enough to know the truth. The question now is whether we help them adjust to reality or leave them to struggle with it alone." "We help them," Stephanie decided immediately. "But gently. No showing off, no making them feel inferior. Just practical assistance and friendship." When Diplomat Vreen returned the next day, his demeanor had changed completely. The arrogance was gone, replaced by a cautious curiosity. "Our leadership council has questions," he admitted. "Many questions about how humans developed so quickly, about your society, your history." Stephanie smiled. "We have questions too. Perhaps we can learn from each other." "Learn? From us?" Vreen seemed genuinely surprised. What could advanced humans possibly learn from Zarnaxians? "Every species has unique perspectives and experiences," Stephanie explained. "Technology isn't everything. We're curious about your art, your philosophy, your way of seeing the universe." For the first time since the Zarnaxians arrived, a genuine smile appeared on Vreen's face. Dr. Frank Nelson never expected to become an alien cultural ambassador. As an anthropologist who specialized in comparing human cultures, he was suddenly assigned to help the Zarnaxians understand Earth. "Are all these different styles of buildings necessary?" asked Meal, the Zarnaxian cultural analyst, as they walked through New York City. The alien looked up at the mix of old and new architecture with obvious confusion. "Not necessary, but meaningful," Frank explained. "Humans value our history. These older buildings connect us to our past." Meal made notes on a small device. The once proud alien empire had quickly shifted from conquerors to curious visitors after discovering how advanced humans really were. "In Zarnaxian cities, all buildings follow the same design," Neil said. "When better materials are discovered, old structures are demolished and replaced." "That's one approach," Frank nodded. "Humans tend to keep things that have cultural or historical value, even if they're not the most efficient." They entered the Metropolitan Museum of Art, where Meal stopped abruptly at the first display. "These are primitive tools," the alien observed, pointing at stone axes in a glass case. "Why display items from your undeveloped past?" Frank smiled. "We're proud of our journey. Each step in human development tells part of our story." This concept seemed completely new to the Zarnaxian. "You celebrate your primitive past. We are taught to be embarrassed by our early technological stages." As they continued through the museum, Meal became increasingly confused by the variety of art styles, especially when they reached the modern art section. "This painting does not look realistic," Meal noted, standing before a colorful abstract work. Was this artist not skilled enough to create an accurate image? "The artist wasn't trying to be realistic," Frank explained. "She was expressing emotions and ideas through color and shape, art that doesn't serve a practical purpose." Meal seemed genuinely puzzled. Later that day, they visited a movie theater where a science fiction film was playing. Frank had selected it specifically to show the Zarnaxians how humans imagined aliens. As the movie showed humans battling invading aliens with superior technology, Meal shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "This entertainment shows humans being attacked by advanced aliens," Meal whispered. "Yet in reality, you were far more advanced than us when we tried to conquer you. Why would you imagine yourselves as less powerful?" "Humans love underdog stories," Frank whispered back. "We enjoy thinking about how determination and creativity can overcome superior force." When they left the theater, Meal was unusually quiet. "Is something bothering you?" Frank asked. "In our media, Zarnaxians are always portrayed as superior to other species," Meal admitted. "Our entertainment reinforces our belief in our own greatness. But your entertainment often shows humans struggling, failing, and learning." Frank nodded. "We find stories more interesting when they include challenges and growth. And you don't find it uncomfortable to imagine humans being less advanced?" "Not at all. It helps us stay humble and remember that technology alone doesn't define a species' worth." This seemed to deeply affect Meal. The alien looked around at the busy city, watching humans from different backgrounds interacting peacefully. "Your people have thousands of different cultures, religions, and viewpoints," Meal observed. "Yet you function as one civilization. In the Zarnaxian Empire, we enforce complete uniformity. Diversity makes us stronger," Frank explained. "Different perspectives help us solve problems in creative ways." On their last stop of the day, they visited a playground where children from various backgrounds played together. "Look how differently they play," Frank pointed out. "Some build with blocks, others tell stories, some run and climb. Each child approaches fun in their own way." Meal watched the children with growing interest. "We teach all Zarnaxian children to play in exactly the same approved ways." As they walked back to the transportation center, Meal finally asked the question that had been forming all day. "Dr. Nelson, do you think the Zarnaxian Empire could learn to value diversity in history as humans do?" Frank smiled warmly. "I believe any intelligent species can grow and change when exposed to new ideas. That's what cultural exchange is all about." For the first time since arriving on Earth, Meal looked genuinely hopeful. Historian Nancy Mitchell sat alone in the library room of the orbital station, surrounded by digital screens. For 2 weeks, she had been studying the historical records the Zarnaxians had shared. Something about their technological development didn't make sense. "You're still working?" asked Sam Ortiz, bringing her a cup of coffee. "It's past midnight. I found something strange," Nancy said, pointing to her main screen. "Look at these technology timelines." Sam looked at the display showing Zarnaxian technological achievements. "What am I seeing?" "Notice how they jumped from simple flight to nuclear power in just 10 years. And then from basic computers to faster-than-light travel in only 20. That's not normal development." "Maybe they're just smarter than us," Sam suggested with a smile. Nancy shook her head. "No civilization develops that way naturally. There are always intermediate steps, failed experiments, gradual improvements." The Zarnaxians skipped whole stages of development. The next morning, Nancy requested a meeting with diplomat Vreen. The Zarnaxian had become the main contact between humans and the once proud empire. "You wanted to discuss our history?" Vreen asked as he entered the meeting room. After weeks of interaction with humans, the aliens had become less formal, though still cautious. "Yes," Nancy said, showing him the timeline she had created. "I've been studying your technological development, and I have a question. Who were the precursors?" Vreen's blue skin paled noticeably. "Where did you hear that name?" "I found references in your historical texts. They appear suddenly about 2,000 years ago, and then disappear from your records." The Zarnaxian looked deeply uncomfortable. "The precursors are not something we discuss with outsiders." "I think I understand what happened," Nancy said gently. "They gave you technology, didn't they? Advanced blueprints and devices that you didn't develop yourselves." Vreen was silent for a long moment. Then he sighed, a very human-like gesture he had picked up during his stay. "You are correct," he admitted. "Approximately 2,000 of your Earth years ago, the precursors visited our world. They gave us technological gifts, faster-than-light engines, nuclear power systems, advanced weapons. Then they disappeared, without explaining the science behind these technologies," Nancy guessed. Vreen nodded. "We could use what they gave us. We could even make copies, but we never truly understood how they worked. Our scientists have spent centuries trying to reverse engineer precursor technology." "That explains a lot," Nancy said. "Your civilization has amazing technology in some areas, but seems behind in others. You're using tools you didn't develop naturally. Our entire imperial ideology is based on the belief that the precursors chose us because we were superior," Vreen explained, his voice low. "We believe they recognized our special destiny to rule the galaxy." Nancy considered how to respond carefully. Being given technology isn't the same as understanding it. Humans advanced slowly because we had to solve each problem ourselves, but that struggle gave us deeper knowledge. You developed faster than light travel on your own, Vreen said, sounding impressed. We still don't understand how our engines work. We just follow the precursor blueprints. That's why your ships still use nuclear fission for power, Nancy realized. You were given the plans for FTL drives, but not the advanced energy systems needed to improve them. Vreen looked down at his hands. Our leaders have always hidden this truth. They feared if our people knew we didn't earn our technology, our empire would fall apart. And now, Nancy asked gently, now we face a choice. Vreen said, continue pretending, or learn to truly understand the science behind our tools. He looked up at Nancy. Do you think humans would be willing to teach us? Nancy smiled. I think that's what neighbors do. Help each other grow. For the first time, Vreen smiled back. A genuine expression of hope rather than the forced politeness of earlier meetings. Perhaps, he said quietly, the precursors didn't choose us because we were superior. Maybe they chose us because we needed help. Nancy nodded. Sometimes the greatest gift isn't the tool itself, but the chance to learn how to make it better. Captain Lisa Moore stood at the large viewing window of Earth's orbital station, watching engineers make final adjustments to the Zarnaxian ship. After 3 months of work, the once primitive vessel had been transformed. Its dangerous nuclear reactor had been replaced with a clean fusion system, and its hull now gleamed with new protective coatings. Hard to believe that's the same ship that came to conquer us, said Lieutenant Jack Bennett, joining her at the window. They've come a long way in a short time, Lisa agreed. The Zarnaxian crew had changed even more than their ship. Gone were the elaborate fake military uniforms and the constant posturing. Instead, they worked alongside human engineers with genuine curiosity and growing skill. Captain Moore called a familiar voice. Lisa turned to see Diplomat Vreen approaching with another Zarnaxian. She recognized as Science Minister Creel. We wanted to thank you before we depart, Vreen said. He wore simple clothing now, having abandoned the pretentious diplomatic robes of his first visit. No thanks needed, Lisa smiled. That's what friends do for each other. Friends, repeated Creel, as if still getting used to the concept. 3 months ago, we came to make you our servants. Now we leave as your students. And our teachers in some ways, Lisa added kindly. We've learned much about Zarnaxian culture that has enriched our understanding of the galaxy. Ambassador Daniel White joined the group, carrying a small box. The final gift from Earth, he said, handing it to Vreen. The diplomat opened it carefully. Inside was a simple data crystal. This contains basic education programs on mathematics, physics, chemistry, and engineering, Daniel explained. Not advanced technology, but the fundamental knowledge needed to truly understand how technology works. The foundations we were missing, Vreen said quietly, holding the crystal carefully. This is more valuable than any weapon or engine. What will you do when you return home? Lisa asked. Creel and Vreen exchanged glances. The truth has already spread throughout our empire, Creel admitted. That we didn't create our technology, that we've been following precursor blueprints without understanding. Some are angry, some are in denial, Vreen added. But many are excited to learn real science for the first time. The council voted yesterday to rename our government, Creel said with obvious pride. We are now the Zarnaxian Cooperative. Our mission is to share knowledge, not conquer territory. Jack grinned. So no more Supreme Overlord. Sagthrax has taken the new title of First Scholar, Vreen said with a small smile. It suits him better than he expected. A voice announced over the station speakers that the Zarnaxian ship was ready for departure. It was time to say goodbye. We've prepared something special for your journey home, Lisa said, a human tradition when friends leave. She led them to the launch bay where the upgraded Zarnaxian ship waited. Written on its side in both human and Zarnaxian languages was a new name, Friendship Bridge. Your ship is the first to carry both human and Zarnaxian crew, Daniel explained. A bridge between our worlds. Vreen seemed deeply moved. When we first arrived, you could have destroyed us or humiliated us for our arrogance. Instead, you showed us kindness and taught us humility through example. Sometimes the most powerful weapon against empire is laughter, Lisa said. It breaks down walls of pride better than any bomb. As the newly named ship prepared to depart, 3 humans joined the Zarnaxian crew, scientists who had volunteered to visit the Zarnaxian homeworld as teachers and ambassadors. From the observation deck, Lisa watched the ship move gracefully away from the station, its new engines glowing with clean energy. Do you think they'll be okay? Jack asked. I think they found something better than an empire, Lisa replied. They found their own path forward. The ship activated its faster-than-light drive, now properly understood by its crew rather than treated like magic, and vanished in a flash of light, carrying the message of friendship to the stars. In just 3 months, the would-be conquerors had become explorers and students, and humans had been reminded of an important truth. True advancement comes not from technology alone, but from how we choose to use it.